Well, hello everyone, my name is Zwiggojr and welcome back to another video. This week we will be taking a look at the Pokemon ROM hack Pokemon Nameless Fire Red. It is very similar to normal ROM hacks of Fire Red, where it's basically just an enhancement of the game, but in this game there are a bunch of different settings that you can apply to make your game harder or more fun. For example, there are 4 difficulty settings, casual to expert, so depending on what kind of player you are, you can play this game the way you want to. There is also a nuzlocke mode implemented, so that is very cool, and this does really set it apart from other ROM hacks. And it also makes it so that you can't actually cheat your way out of a nuzlocke, because if your Pokemon's dead, it's dead in this game. Of course, like always, there is a updated Pokédex, updated movesets as well, and all of the other good stuff that comes with an enhanced ROM hack. There's even a phone number system, just like in Pokemon Heart Gold and Soul Silver, which I do find very refreshing. And so I decided to try ahead and beat this game on the hardest difficulty with only Water-type Pokemon. I won't be doing a Nuzlocke though, I'm not a Nuzlocke guy. So the rules are that I can only use Water-type Pokemon, I am allowed to use HM Pokemon, and since this game's gym leaders and Elite Four do level up with you, it doesn't really matter what level you are. With that out of the way, don't forget to smash that like button. Let's try to aim for 4,000 likes for Nameless Fire Red. And if you haven't done it already, don't forget to subscribe as well, it really does help me out. And let's just jump right into it. Starting off, I immediately picked the expert difficulty, even though I'm not a Pokemon expert at all. Don't get me wrong. The starters in this ROM hack have also been replaced by the Kalos starter, so I'm gonna go with Froakie since I will be running with water types. I name him Donatello and I hope you all get this reference. And after that, it's time to fight our rival since he did pick a Chespin. The only reason I was able to win this fight is because my Froakie was holding an Oranberry, so after pounding this Chespin a bunch of times, I won my first rival battle. I then of course bring back the package for Professor Oak. He gives us our Pokédex and Pokeballs, and we're off to explore this new ROM hack. All of the events are the same as in normal Fire Red, so I'm just going to move on to Brock immediately. I thought that this was going to be a piece of cake because, you know, I have a water type, he has rock types, we should be totally fine. But as it turns out, that wasn't the case. His second Pokemon, Amora, is actually a big pain in the ass because it has Thunder Wave and Charge Beam, which are very annoying to deal with. Charge Beam always does more than half of my health, so 2 of those can easily take me down. And if I manage to take down Amora, it most of the time has paralyzed me already, so if I get to his last Pokemon, Tyrant, it's over because he outspeeds and basically does a lot of damage with Dragon Tail. So I decided to let Froakie evolve into Frogadier because I needed the stat buff for this gym. After the evolution, I was able to 2-shot Rock'n'Rolla since he did have Sturdy, which was annoying. My speed also got lowered by a Rock Tomb, but I'm not too afraid of that because Frogadier is still pretty fast. And I was right because I was still able to outspeed Amora, Water Pulse it 3 times in order to take it down because it kept hitting itself in its confusion. With more than enough health remaining, I went into the final Pokemon, Tyrant, who was able to hit a Rock Tomb, which left me with 5 HP, but this did activate my Torrent ability, which means that my Water Pulse now does way more damage and takes down Tyrant next turn. With that, we acquire our first gym badge and we can head on to Mount Moon. On the way there, I picked up the Magikarp from the guy in the Pokecenter, and this thing is a shiny. And it actually has a very decent moveset as well as Bounce, which is going to be amazing on Gyarados as a flying stab move. While in Mount Moon, I also picked up another team member in Wooper, and of course I name him Pooper. I also picked the Silph fossil here because they have been replaced, because, you know, I can't really use the Jaw fossil. And I then reach Cerulean City to fight our rival for the second time. I start off with Wooper because I want to switch train him, and I immediately go into Donatello after that. I then proceed to one-shot Staravia with Water Pulse. As he then sends in Quilladin, I decide to go into Magikarp to try and go for a bounce, but I miss and get taken out with a single Vine Whip. I go back into Frogadier to go for the Smokescreen twice, but I then get Leech Seeded, so I decide to go into Wooper to get rid of that. Wooper ultimately gets taken down, so my last hope here is Frogadier. I kept on Water Pulsing the Quilladin until it eventually hit itself in its confusion after using a potion in order to take himself down. I'm only left with a little bit of HP. Luckily, the last Leech Seed damage does not take me out, and I can one-shot his final Pokemon Ralts with a Water Pulse as well. With that rival fight out of the way, my Magikarp evolved into a Gyarados at level 20, and he also got the Moxie ability, which is so good for Gyarados, which means that every time he kills a Pokemon, he gets a raise in its attack. After defeating all of the trainers up until Bill's house, I decided to take on Misty, but I really wasn't ready for this fight yet. Since the gyms do level up with your highest level Pokemon, and two of my Pokemon weren't really catched up yet, I got my ass handed to me by Starmie, so I decided to move on to Vermilion City first and take on some more trainers to level up the rest of my team. After doing that, my Wooper evolved into a Quagsire, and I immediately moved on to the SSN to fight our rival for the third time. But since your rival's Pokemon do not level up with your Pokemon, I easily was able to sweep him with only my Gyarados because I could bounce on his first Pokemon Staravia, and the second one Quilladin as well. The third one was Meryl, which I also bounced to death, and since my attack only goes up, I decide to bite Ralts and bite Vulpix in order to one-shot his entire team. With my buffed up team, I decided to go back to Misty, and this time I could easily sweep her entire gym by bouncing on Shelder, bouncing on Wooper, bouncing on Starmie, and then bouncing on Azumarill to win my second gym badge. Thank God for Moxie. If you decide to pick up this game, I really recommend trying to pick up this shiny Gyarados. You know who's next on the list? Lieutenant Surge, and you might think that this fight was actually trouble for me, but with Gyarados, it honestly wasn't even hard. He starts off with a Helioptile, which I can bite twice to take it out. Next up is Electrike, which I bite once. Now having two Moxie attack boosts makes this really easy from now on. Since I then do proceed to 3-shot the next Pokemon Fluffy, which did paralyze me with the static ability, which was annoying. But in the end, Gyarados did come out on top. I also decided to replace Bubble for Ice Fang, since Ice Fang is going to be a very good physical attacking Ice type move. Next up is Electabuzz, and sadly enough, because I'm paralyzed, I cannot outspeed him and I get absolutely destroyed by Electro Ball. So I then switch into Quagsire, and with a dig, I can finish off Electabuzz, and his final Pokemon, Magnemite, comes out. He hits me with a Flash Cannon, which does decent damage, but my Mudshot is able to one-shot it from full health, and I now have 3 gym badges in my pocket. We then move through Rock Tunnel, and after that I take on a trainer, which levels up my Frogadier to level 36, which means that I now have a Greninja. After doing that, I reach Erika's Grass Gym, and yet again you might think that this is a problem, right? Well, not at all. Up until now, the expert mode of this game really isn't that challenging compared to games like Pokemon Radical Red or Pokemon Emerald Kaizo. Erika's first Pokemon is a Ferroseed, but luckily I decide to go for the bounce and it just goes boom, killing itself. She then sends out Whimsicott, but it immediately feels my wrath from Gyarados by bouncing up on top of it and killing it in one shot. Next up is Victreebel, and I decide to go for the Ice Fang, but it doesn't quite take it out, but it doesn't really hit me either, so one more Ice Fang does take it out next turn. Tropius is up next, but my Ice Fang is 4 times super effective, taking him down in one hit. Then Sawsbuck comes out, so I do get hit with a Seed Bomb, but I decide to go for a bounce, taking him down in one hit as well. And the final Pokemon is Tangrowth. So one more bounce, and we have won ourselves the 4th gym badge with only Gyarados at this point. So we then go under the game corner to stop Giovanni's evil schemes. No, not by beating him up, but by beating him in a Pokemon battle, of course, because that's how we settle things here. His first Pokemon is a Hippopotas. I start off with Quagsire and go for the Water Gun, which basically does nothing. So I then go for an Earthquake, which does the same amount of damage, but luckily after that he goes for a Dig, which powers up my Earthquake, taking him down. Next up is Nidorina, but that thing takes me down sadly enough because I don't have any more Earthquakes. I switch into Gyarados, go for 2 Aqua Tails to take down Nidorina, but I do get poisoned by the Poison Point ability. Next up is Rhyhorn, so an Aqua Tail takes care of that. Nidorina also goes down to an Aqua Tail. And last up is Gible, who we Ice Fang to death. With Don Giovanni out of the way, I pick up the Silph Scope, go straight to Pokemon Tower, and save Mr. Fuji. And then while I was making my way to Fuchsia City, I picked myself up a Cloyster and a Clowncher as well. I then immediately evolved Clowncher into Clawitzer, And then I decided to take on the Fuchsia City Gym Koga with his poison types. His first Pokemon is Scolipede, and I decide to lead off with Greninja, but I get immediately screwed by a Mega Horn. So I go into King and bounce on top of it to take it down. Next up is Toxicroak, so I bounce that thing to death as well. Skuntank is able to hit a Sludge Bomb, but an Aqua Tail also takes it down because it was a critical hit. Don't really know if that mattered though. You then send out an Amoonguss, but my bounce also took care of that. Then it's Wheezing time, aka critical hit bounce, and it's down. And last but not least is Nidoking, so an Aqua Tail wins me the battle. I'm telling ya, this Gyarados is absolutely overpowered. I then go straight to Saffron City to go ahead and take on the Silph Co building. Before we can challenge Giovanni though, it's time for another rival battle. He now starts off with a Staraptor, which is able to take down my Cloyster since it did set up some double teams and was able to hit a close combat quick attack combo. I did do half of his health with an Aurora Beam though. I then decided to go into Greninja because I do have hidden power ice on it, but I did get killed by the Staraptor as well because of all the double teams and I just couldn't hit a move. I then decided to bring out Quagsire, but he also got destroyed by 3 close combats. All because of the double teams that Staraptor had set up. So I go into Gyarados, set up a Dragon Dance, and then go for the Ice Fang twice because I missed my first one, but the second one finally connected, taking down Staraptor. Next up is Girder, but I go for the bounce and miss. He hits me with a Rock Slide, but I'm only left with 5 HP, so I go for another bounce, finally hitting and taking down Girder. Chestnut is another one hit with bounce. Slowbro is a pretty bulky Pokemon, but a bounce also takes it down because of all the Moxie attack boost that I got. And his last 2 Pokemon, Gardevoir and Houndoom, both went down to Aqua Tails. After defeating my rival, I head up to the top of Silph Co to fight Giovanni as well. And in between, I also picked up the Lapras. So Giovanni starts off with his Hippo down, which absolutely destroys my Cloyster. So I go into Donatello to finish off Hippo down with 2 Surfs, but I did get Toxic. Next up is Nidoking, so I decided to go for the Surf again, almost taking it down, but it went for the Sludge Bomb, which did finish off Greninja. I then went into Clawitzer to go for the Aqua Jet to try and finish off Nidoking, but he healed up, so after that I got hit with a Sludge Bomb, was left with 11 HP, and finished it off with Muddy Water. Next to that was Nidoking, and this thing was smarter and faster than Clawitzer, so my Clawitzer is now dead. I then went into King, set up a Dragon Dance, and finished off Nidoqueen with Aqua Tail. Next to that is Rhydon, which I also one-shot with Aqua Tail. Pawniard is able to hit a Sucker Punch, but I hang on and hit it with an Aqua Tail to take it down. And last up is Gabite, who I Ice Fang to death. After defeating Giovanni, I head straight to the next gym, which is led by Sabrina and her Psychic types. And I did actually get destroyed by her a couple of times, but the biggest reason why is because of Jinx. This Jinx is super fast and outspeed most of my team members, and it has the ability Dry Skin, so if I hit it with a Water type move, it actually gets HP back. And since I'm running with a Water type team here, this is not really great for me. Also, don't forget that you can put your Pokemon to sleep, which makes it even more annoying, and you've basically got a killing machine on your hands. Eventually though, I was able to beat Sabrina as well. Sabrina starts off with a Bronzong, so I set up 2 Dragon Dances with King and go for 2 Aqua Tails to take it down. Next up is Gothitelle, which I can also one-shot with Aqua Tail since I have now got 3 attacking boosts. Next up is Reuniclus, which we can also one-shot with Aqua Tail. Then finally Jinx comes out, and because of the Dragon Dances, I am now faster. I bounce on top of it to take it down. Next to that is Slowbro, and that is another bounce, and last up is Gallade, which we can bounce to death as well, and that is our 6th gym badge. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Expert mode isn't even for experts. I then went to Cinnabar Island and went into the mansion and found Reshiram here. I really wanted to capture it, but I couldn't use it anyway, so I just defeated it. After that, I went to Blaine's gym, and this guy, you know, he only has fire type, so this is no problem at all. He does have a Ninetales as his first Pokemon with Drought, which does lower the attack of my water type moves. I get put to sleep with Hypnosis, get hit with a lot of flamethrowers, but eventually I wake up and go for the Dragon Dance and take out the Ninetales with an Aqua Tail. And the rest of his team actually shares the same fate as the Ninetales. Magmortar was a one-shot, Houndoom was a one-shot, as well as Chandelure, Talonflame, and his last Pokemon, Volcarona, as well. So since we now defeated the Bald Man, we can head on to Don Giovanni as the final gym leader. And he was way harder to beat than Blaine, all because of one Pokemon, and that is Excadrill. because he outspeeds most of my team unless I set up like 2 or 3 Dragon Dances with Gyarados. And we all know that Excadrill has an amazing attacking stat, which means that he basically one-shots my entire team as well. Anyway, after I finally got my ass handed to me about 1,000,000 times by this Excadrill, I eventually beat it, but then I got to Garchomp, which was basically the same problem. So I knew that the only way that I was going to win this fight is by Dragon Dancing with Gyarados until the cows came home. So that is exactly what I did. I could actually set up 3 Dragon Dances on his first Pokemon Hippowdon, because normally he does Toxic me, but this time he decides to not go for it. After setting those up, I go for the Aqua Tail to take him down. Next up is Rhyperior, which we also one-shot with Aqua Tail. Then Excadrill comes out. I managed to outspeed it this time and take it down in one hit too. Then Garchomp finally comes out, but I'm now way too strong for him, so an Ice Fang takes him down from full health. Then Gliscor comes out, which is another Ice Fang, so the same fate as Garchomp. And the last Pokemon is Bisharp, which isn't even a ground type, but an Aqua Tail still takes it down, while it did hit me with a Sucker Punch, which left me with 26 HP. But we came out on top anyways, gaining ourselves our final gym badge, which means that we can move on to the Pokemon League, but we get stopped by our rival on the way there, of course. He now has a little bit of a buffed up team, starting off with Skarmory, which I do set up on with 3 Dragon Dances from Gyarados. After that, I'm only left with 5 HP because of all the Brave Bursts, so I go for the Aqua Tail, which takes out Skarmory from full health. The next 2 Pokemon are Conkeldurr and Slowbro, which both go down to bounces. The next 2 Pokemon are Gardevoir and Houndoom, which I take down with Aqua Tails, and last up is Chestnut, which I take down with another bounce. Now this was the easy part of the game. Now it's time to move on to the Elite Four, starting off with Lorelei. I also decided to grind my entire team up to around level 60 to 61, but besides that, I didn't really make any changes yet. Jumping into the fight, I didn't really expect much from it, because the rest of the game really wasn't that hard. This is where the difficulty jump really takes a very huge step forward. All of the Pokemon are having a very appropriate held item, and they are all EV trained. And since my Pokemon are not EV trained at all, this really puts me at a disadvantage. But even with that disadvantage, I kept on trying. And after losing to Lorelei over 100 times, I finally realized that I was not going to be able to do it like this. And the reason why I lost over 100 times to her is because of 3 Pokemon. First is Jinx. Just like with Sabrina, this thing has dry skin, so I can't hit it with any water type moves. It also has Nasty Plot, and it can put me to sleep. And besides that, it outspeeds everything except for Greninja. Sometimes I do beat this Jinx, and then there is a Glalie. This Glalie has Substitute and the Moody ability, which means that every turn a stat goes up and a stat goes down, which can very much work in its favor. Besides that, she also has a Lapras, but I only got to that thing once before I decided to quit it and get myself some new team members. So I got myself a Frillish and a Starmie, which I leveled up to add to the team, and then I decided to go back to Lorelei. The Jinx still gave me some trouble, but after only 4 attempts, I was now able to beat her. She starts off with an Aurora, so I lead off with Greninja. I go for the Hydro Bump twice to take it down. Next up is Weavile, so I switch into Quagsire and I start Brick Breaking away at it. 1 Brick Break isn't enough, so she heals up, but luckily I am able to go for 2 more Brick Breaks and hang on with 1 HP in order to take down Weavile. Next on out is Cloyster, and I know that this thing's special defense is very low, so I switch into Clawitzer and go for 2 Dragon Pulses in order to take that thing down. Then Jinx came out, so I go for the Dark Pulse twice on it with Clawitzer in order to take it down, because it decided to go for Ice Beam and not for Psy Shock. Gotta love dumb AI. Then Glalie came out, so I switched into Starmie to confuse it, and then I kept on surfing away, but it set up a Substitute, which made it very hard to hit it. And because of the Moody ability, its evasiveness also went up sometimes, which made me miss my moves. Starmie eventually goes down to a couple of Earthquakes, so I switch in Greninja. I am able to hit a Hydro Pump on it, doing a decent amount of damage, but then Greninja also goes down, so I go into Gyarados, go for the Aqua Tail, and finish off Glalie. Now it's time for our last Pokemon, Lapras. I decided to set up 2 more Dragon Dances, but the Lapras does confuse me with Confuse Ray. Eventually I hit a bounce, but it just does over half of its health. I eventually also hit myself in my confusion, leaving me with only 40 HP, but then after that I hit 1 more bounce, taking down Lapras and finally winning against Lorelei. With Lorelei out of the way, it's time for us to move on to the second Elite Four member, Bruno. And the problem on his team is a Tyrantrum. As you may know, Tyrantrum is super strong and also pretty bulky. I mean, what else would you expect from a literal T-Rex? And to add insult to injury, it also has a life orb, which makes it hit even harder. Besides that, Bruno also has a Hawlucha, which is very fast and also hits pretty damn hard, so I really had to find some kind of strategy to take both of them down. It also didn't help that Hawlucha had Swords Dance to boost its attack even more. Eventually though, I made my way through him as well. His first Pokemon is a Medicham, so I lead off with Jellicent and I try to go for an Ominous Wind, but it only does about half of his HP before Jellicent is already down. So then I switch into Starmie, but my Surf doesn't quite take it down. He goes for the Howjumke, but it has a Life Orb on him, which causes him to faint. Next up is Rhyperior, which we can also take down with a Surf, and then Heracross comes out, which has a Flame Orb because he has the Guts ability. So I go into King and I go for the Bounce, but as I go for a Bounce, he switches out into Tyrantrum. Luckily, my Bounce paralyzes it, which means that I can now go into my Clawitzer, but I also get one-shot by a Head Smash. Then I go into Quagsire and I keep on Earthquaking until it eventually faints. Next up is Heracross again, so I switch back into Gyarados, go for the Dragon Dance and take him down with a Bounce as well. As he sends out his next Pokemon, a Hawlucha, I go for the Aqua Tail, but it doesn't quite take him out, and he goes for the Swords Dance, but I luckily outspeed because of my Dragon Dance, and a Nice Fang finishes it off. The last Pokemon is Conkeldurr, so one more Bounce, and we defeated Bruno. Next up on the list is of course Agatha with her Ghost types, and her first Pokemon is a Frostlass. I start off with Gyarados and of course set up 2 Dragon Dances because the Frostlass apparently can't even hit me that hard. I then go for an Aqua Tail, but it doesn't quite take it out, so I try to go for an Ice Fang, but she heals up with a full restore. After that I go for the Bounce and Frostlass is finally down. Next up is Jellicent, so I set up one more Dragon Dance, then go for the Bounce, and that takes it out from full health. Chandelure is a one-shot with Aqua Tail, but we do get burned by the Flame Body ability of it. She then decides to send out a Gengar, which still goes down to an Aqua Tail even though our attack is halved. Then Aces Slash comes out, I'm able to hit one more Aqua Tail, but it doesn't quite take it out, and we get taken out by the burn damage. So I go into Jellicent, and I try to take it down with some Ominous Winds, but eventually the Aegis Slash heals up with a full restore. I keep Ominous Winding away until Jellicent finally goes down. Then I send out Quagsire to finish off Aegis Slash with a single Earthquake. Her last Pokemon is Sableye, and this was the most annoying Pokemon to take down on her team. It was able to beat my Clawitzer because it just kept on healing up with Recover once I got it down into low health. It also beat my Greninja because of the same reason and because I ran out of Hydro Pumps and Water Shuriken just wasn't cutting it. It was also able to beat my Quagsire, but then finally I was able to send out Starmie, go for the Surf, finish off Sableye, and move on to the last Elite Four member, Lance. But he was actually no problem at all because I just Dragon Danced away with my Gyarados and beat his first Pokemon Noivern with an Ice Fang. Next up was his own Gyarados, so I go for the Ice Fang, but it only does about half of his health, as he then goes for a Bounce, so I decide to go for my own Bounce. He misses his, I hit mine, and the Gyarados is down. Next up is Haxorus, which we Ice Fang as well, then Hydreigon comes out, which we Ice Fang too, and the last 2 Pokemon, Garchomp and Dragonite, both were one-shots with Ice Fangs as well. So with Lance out of the way, it's time for the final battle against our rival. What I decide to do is lead off with Starmie on his first Pokemon, Skarmory, and then confuse it so that I can safely switch into Gyarados, make the Skarmory hit itself in its confusion a couple of times, set up my Dragon Dances, and go havoc on it, killing it with an Aqua Tail. Next up is Conkeldurr, which I also take down with Aqua Tail. Slowbro can't take a Bounce. Gardevoir can't take a Bounce either. Houndoom goes down to a single Aqua Tail as well. And last but not least is Chestnut, which we can take down with a single Ice Fang. And just like that, we defeated Pokemon Nameless Fire Red with only water types, basically with only Gyarados. Just give me a full team of these Gyaradoses and I will never ever lose. But yeah, that was Pokemon Nameless Fire Red. I hope you guys enjoyed the ROM hack. It's not that great, not that amazing in my opinion, but it does have some very interesting features. If you're more into challenging ROM hacks, I think I would try Pokemon Radical Red instead of this one. But it was fun nonetheless. I still did have some very challenging moments with Lorelei. She was definitely the hardest trainer to take down in this entire run. But that all aside, it was a pretty fun ROM hack and very well made. Don't forget to leave a comment down below with what ROM hack you want me to play next, because I do love playing new ones. Besides that, I of course want to thank my Patreon and membership supporters for making me able to buy dinner. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you all. If you want to do so yourself, the link is in the description. You can sign up that way. And with that out of the way, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends. I'm Zwiggo, and I'll see you guys next time.